So most competitive gamers seem to go for a 24-inch, high hertz, and something with DIAC tech. Fast, responsive, and less motion blur. It's to get any kind of advantage that they can. That also means they go for lower resolutions to make sure that they're getting enough frames. This Corsair monitor is a 45-inch ultrawide, 3440 by 1440, 240Hz OLED. You're going to need a solid PC to get near 240 frames per second to really make use of this monitor. But given the price, I'd assume this is for people willing to spend a lot of money on gaming. And with all that in mind, safe to say this isn't exactly made for competitive players. That said, I sit about an arm's length back, and I love having big screens. I've been using the Samsung G7 32-inch, which is 240Hz and a VA panel, but I've been wondering if I want to move to ultrawide. So in this video, that's the main question I'm going to answer. Can a competitive, content creating player use a massive ultrawide 240Hz OLED? And I'll talk about general use in gaming, of course. The reason that I want to go ultra-wide is actually for the content creation, so I can have an all-in-one monitor. This isn't going to be a traditional monitor review, it's more a hands-on what I want to buy based on real experience review. Starting with content creation real quick. I've already talked about content creation on 32:9. It's amazing having that extra length for the timeline in video editing, plus all this extra space for all the panels when making music. And yes, it's much better than having multiple monitors with bezels in between. Going down to 21:9, obviously not as much space, but definitely better than 16:9, so I'm looking for a happy medium. 32:9 is too wide for gaming, but great for content creation. 16:9 is best for gaming, but not content creation, so 21:9 seems like a pretty nice sweet spot, except for one little problem, which won't be for everyone, but for gaming, my main testing game is Quake Live. That's basically running on an engine from 1999, very old. But it's very pure and clear, which is part of why it's so good for testing and finding the right tech products. Unfortunately, because it's so old, it doesn't really support ultra-wide screens. You can set it, but it looks stretched, and it actually messes with how the mouse moves. I could not figure out where to flick to. My aim was atrocious. Raising the FOV to 120 did help, but it's still a bit weird. The same is going to be true for pretty much all the old games, even something like Street Fighter 30th Anniversary. The compatibility just isn't there, and setting the monitor to lower resolution seems to lock it at 100Hz. One solution I can find would be just to play in a window. On a screen this size, it's actually not too bad. However, it's an OLED screen, meaning burn-in could be a problem with those long gaming sessions. You'd need a moving wallpaper and to hide the taskbar, but then you have the issue of the top bar of the window mode. So yeah, if you're playing older games, you're going to need to figure these things out. As with everything in life, nothing is perfect, there are always compromises needed to be made, especially because ultrawide is still somewhat new, as in some things just haven't caught up to using them yet. Even games like Apex still have some slight issues. Whether you're okay with that or not is up to you. How much are you willing to give up for the sake of enjoying the ultrawide experience? I've had to change my entire setup so that I can have a 360Hz 1080p screen to play Quake Live on. I have a wireless keyboard and mouse on a big desk, so I just move them over to that screen and play there. It isn't ideal, but hey, at least I can use the OLED for everything else, because it is awesome in other games. They look amazing and they do play well. I'm very used to playing Apex on it now. I don't even think about it, it's just fun. I actually don't mind the HUD being more on the outside, so I have more room in the middle to focus on enemies. That's me though. Others definitely say the opposite. They want it closer together, so they don't have to look around. They don't have to take their eyes off the action to kind of see the rest of the info. It is just personal preference. Although at this stage, we should talk about League of Legends and RTS style games. If you're using your mouse to move your camera, that's extra distance when getting to the sides, which means you'll be slightly slower than the others. However, you can see a tiny bit more, so maybe it's a bit of an advantage in ultrawide. Fighting games, I don't even know the moves anymore, so don't judge me, but it seems you get a little extra on these too. Racing games, as you would expect, look amazing. I'm racing through these other types of games because I'm not competitive in them, so I don't really know what you're looking for, but they are fun to play on a screen this size. And if you're playing Valorant, they won't let you use the ultrawide anyway. They add black borders, which is fine in terms of burn-in, no problems there. And speaking of Valorant, I filmed at 1000 FPS to see what the motion was like compared to a 360Hz monitor, and then slowed it down even more. And it looks to me like the pixel refresh time is a bit better on the OLED, but the 360Hz is a bit smoother. While in use though, I couldn't really notice a difference. I think both were amazing, but it's not going to be something most people notice. Maybe if you're a pro and super sensitive, but good luck proving that during a blind test. It's too close. And in the Overwatch test, where we see if we can read the text as we strafe, I actually can on the OLED. This is the first 240Hz screen, without DIAC tech, that I've been able to do that on. I guess that shows just how good OLED is. At 240Hz, it's competing with DIAC and 360Hz. This is important for tracking enemy movement, so if you're competitive, It should help you reach your potential. Now let's talk actually using this OLED for day-to-day tasks, and not just gaming. 45-inch and only 1440p? Yeah, it could be sharper. Sometimes text doesn't seem as good as it could be, but overall, sitting this far back, I'm actually fine with it. Just to give you my experience with monitor size, I have a 32-inch 4K screen, and I struggle to read the text sometimes. Yes, you can use scaling, but that can interfere with certain programs and even games, so I try not to use scaling at all. On the 49-inch 32:9 monitor, things are a little small, that's 1440p as well, and on this 21:9, things are a little big. Somewhere in between those two could be great. It's actually the potential burn-in that worries me most. Everything else I'm pretty much fine with, I can find solutions. They say they have pixel shifting and dimming, which is great and all, but the pixel shift I think will only work if you have a very detailed image. It's only shifting a tiny bit, like a few pixels. If you have a big band across the screen, like a taskbar, then even if you're shifting it, it's still the same color next to it, so I'd assume that's going to burn in. However, they said it has burn-in protection, along with 0 dead pixels and 24/7 support. That's really great to see. Dead pixels are one of the most annoying things about purchasing new monitors, and some companies don't even offer warranty on them. So that's awesome of Corsair and LG to offer this protection. And quick note, when a full white page comes up, it auto-dims for you, so some nice eye protection there, but it will only do it if it's the majority of the screen. Also look at this dark screen. Not sure if the bands come up too well on camera, but it seems odd, and it was like that when it got here. This is a demo unit, meaning others have already worked on it, but it does make me concerned about the whole burn-in thing. Yes, the colors and blacks look amazing, but it's not really a tech made for computers. Or it might be, but maybe not yet, because we have a taskbar always on screen, and static elements while we work. During game it's fine, the pixels refresh all the time, but for work, not so much. I'd recommend using a screensaver too. It's got a matte finish, so even with lights around, you're not going to get a bunch of reflections. I know matte coat doesn't look as good, but in my opinion, it's needed for games. Especially if you're trying to be competitive and not just playing in a fully dark room. Personal preference, but I think they made the right call going for matte. And remember, it's a 240Hz display, which is pretty much made for competitive players. And I'd also say they're less likely to want reflections in the screen. However, it does kind of defeat the purpose of an OLED in a way. I honestly haven't noticed too much difference between using this and the Samsung G7. Like, I didn't get blown away to the point I'm going to say, oh, I need to use OLED now. Regarding the Flex thing getting hyped on this monitor, I mean it's a major feature, and it is cool tech, but personally I've become used to curved screens, so I'm just going to leave it at the one setting. Too much hassle changing it, and at this size, you kinda do want the curve. I've found even a 32-inch screen needs a bit of curve. If you're a professional graphic designer, I think you should get a dedicated monitor for this stuff, but if you're just working for yourself, it seems fine to me. Here's a look at the menus and the presets, and you can customize it if you're not happy with them. I'm just going to go through the menus so you can see what else is in there. Always good to have a little thumbstick to navigate menus, but the actual menu does feel a bit clunky and not too intuitive. Took me a while to figure it out. Color accuracy seems good, so I'm just going to stick with the presets. As for the stand, yep, you're stuck with it, which isn't necessarily bad. It does fit really well on my desk, and the side of the stand measures 40 centimeters. About 32.5 front to back, and 62 centimeters across. That's at the front, so make sure you have the space. But it would have been nice if they added more of a height adjustment to it. Obviously, that adds extra cost and issues, so I get why they didn't. This old Zoe mouse bungee fits okay, but the newer one may not. And depending on your sitting position, your eyes may not be level with center. It has a tilt function to help, but otherwise, the bottom of the monitor is at just over 11 centimeters, the top is at 57 centimeters, and across is about 103 centimeters wide. So measure that out, see if it'll work for you. This is it next to a 32-inch monitor, considerably larger. Guessing if it was an ultrawide, it would have been equal to maybe a 34-inch monitor. I'm assuming other reviewers have already gone over the capabilities of the stand and all that. It's pretty straightforward. USB ports, headphone, Type-C, all that. It's great for me as a content creator, because I always need extra ports for all my devices. So lucky for me, this monitor stand is actually going to work really well in my setup, but it won't work for everyone. It has GSync compatibility and HDR. HDR is pretty cool when supported, looks great in Doom Eternal. I know cameras won't show the real difference, but here's an idea at least. And Sync Tech, that can help smooth the games, especially when running OBS. When streaming, it's good to have that extra help from the monitor, I think. So limit your FPS to 236, set GSync on, and have fun. You shouldn't get a noticeable delay if set up this way. It's like 0.5 milliseconds with it on, but it can save you the stutters, so I'd say it's worth it. As for cables, I think they need to include a longer DisplayPort cable. It's a big monitor. Chances are, people aren't going to have their PC right next to it. Here's what comes with it anyway, it's 1.5 meters long. I'd expect at least 2 meters. And there's a high-speed HDMI if you want to run a console too. Also comes with 2 power bricks, or this one did, an extra long power cable, so clearly they're aware that you're going to need long cables with it, so maybe in the retail version we'll get a longer DisplayPort cable. Okay, I hope that gives you a pretty good idea of the general use. Now let's talk conclusion. Can a competitive player use a massive ultra-wide 240Hz OLED? Yes and no. If you're actually trying to be your best, I'd recommend sticking with the standard. If you're just trying to play at a high level but also enjoy other things, or you're working with content creation, then absolutely, this is awesome. The only real 2 complaints are the pixels per inch, and also the potential burn-in. And if you're playing older games, there's the issue there too. Otherwise, it's my favorite monitor so far. I would say that the main selling point of the monitor isn't the flex. Despite being the most unique feature, the main selling point is actually that it's the best all-rounder for competitive content creators and media enjoyers. But like most good all-rounders, they don't specialize like say a 360Hz diac monitor. So you have to figure out what you want. Me personally, now that I have a solution to the Quake Live problem, I actually want this. I bought the G9 and it's been a great investment. The time and stress it saves me while working is worth the money, because I can now navigate my music and video editing way faster, and also enjoy it more. And the same is true here. I still get to enjoy games and watch movies, but I can also edit videos and music. Plus I can do all my game testing on this setup now, and also edit videos here. That saves me from having to copy over all my highlight videos to the other PC where I was editing videos. I have to send this monitor back, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to miss it. It's really fun to use, great to play on, looks amazing, and can function as a workhorse too. If I were choosing just one monitor for a setup that I was going to use for content creation and gaming, I'd have to go with this, because it's the best balance of everything I want. It's big, it's 1440p, ultra-wide, 240Hz OLED, and I was actually excited when I saw it announced. So I contacted Corsair in hopes of getting to try it out, to see if I would buy one. Obviously they said yes, which I'm very grateful for, so thanks to them. You rarely get to try things out before you buy them, but of course my views have not been influenced. I was testing this monitor out as a potential buyer, and it's pretty much all I hoped for. It's just Quake Live is old. That's probably the main issue with it for me. So I'm going to buy one as soon as they're out in my country. I hope all that helps your buying choice. Big thanks to Corsair for letting me try it out before I buy. Usual links below if you want to help support what I do. Sub, like and share. Catch ya.